everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into the topic that's essential to web development as coffee into a coder. Sounds simple, right? But trust me, lists are like the unusual heroes of HTML. You might think, oh, it's just a list. How hard can it be? But wait, you will surprise whether you are listing items for a shopping cart or just making a menu. HTML list will have your back like a loyal sidekick in a superhero movie. So grab your laptops and let's start making some awesome lists without getting too lost in the tabs. So now let's move computer screen and let's do a coding. We're loving it. Guys, here you can see one more video became on the full stack web development in which I am telling you about the HTML input attributes. So I know many people do not know what is the input attributes, but in today's video, your whole concept will be clear about it. So let's get started without wasting any time. In this chapter, we described the different attributes for the HTML input element. The value attribute. The input value attribute specifies an initial value for an input field. This one input fields with initial default values. Here you can see it. Now let's run this code and here we are using the input attribute fields with the initial default values. So let me save it and run it. So now this one input value attribute, the value attribute specify an initial value for an input field. Okay, we can see it. Now the read-only attribute. The input read-only attribute specifies that an input field is read-only. A read-only input field cannot be modified. However, a user can tap to it, highlight it, copy the text from it. The value of the read-only input field will be sent by when you are submitting the form. Like here we write first name John and last name Doe. And when you are submitting the form, like I have told you, the value of the read-only input field will send when you are submitting the form. There is one example. In this example, we are read-only input field. In this example, we define one read-only field. Here you can see in this example, we define the input read-only attribute, and the read-only attribute specifies that an input field should be read-only, cannot be changed. Here you can see it. Now, the disabled attribute. The input disabled attribute specifies that an input field should be disabled. A disabled input field is unusable and unclickable. Now, the value of a disabled input field will not be sent when you are submitting the form. This is one example of the disabled input field. So in this example, this is one example of the disabled input field, and you are thinking where I use the disabled input field. Here I use the disabled input field. This is one example of the input disabled attribute, and the disabled attribute specifies that an input field should be disabled, unusable and unclickable. Okay, here you can see it. Save it and run it. So when you clicking on it, so here you can see it. The first name is unusable and unclickable. Why? Because in the first John input field, I used the disable attribute. So that's why. Now, the size attribute. The input size attribute specifies the visible width in characters of an input field. Now, the default value for size is 20. Note that the size attribute works with the following input types like tag, search, tel, URL, mail, and password. Set the width for input field. In this example, we are setting the width of the input field. So let's run this example. So let me copy it and let me paste it. Save it and run it. So this is one example of the input size attribute. The size attribute specifies the width in characters of an input field. So the first name box is width is very long. Why? Because I give the width of it 50. Size means 50. So that's why. Okay, and pin I give the 44. So that's why it is coming in a very smaller. Okay, so the size attribute is specify the width in characters of an input field. The max length attribute. The input max length attribute specifies the maximum number of characters allowed in an input field. Note that when a max length is set, the input field will not accept more than the specified number of characters. However, this attribute does not provide any feedback. So, if you want to alert the user, you must write JavaScript code. In this example, we set the maximum length for an input field, and where we write the maximum length, let me explain you where we write the maximum length. Here we use the maximum length, and maximum length I give the 4. Here we use the input max length attributes. The max length attribute specifies the maximum number of characters allowed in an input field. Save it and run it, so here you can see it. It is giving me this type of an output. Okay, it is not giving me the output, so let me open my file. So here you can see here we use the max length attribute, which specifies the maximum number of characters allowed in an input field. Okay, so here you can see it. When you if you give them more than like this, so it is coming like this. Okay, but here you can see it. I write only 4 letters, and the 4 letters, after the 4 letter, it is not giving me anything. I am pressing my keyboard buttons, but here the output will be no output has been coming. Why? Because I give the max length 4, so that's why. Okay, the min max attributes, the input mix, min and max attribute specify the minimum and maximum values for an input field. The min and max attributes work with the following input types like number, range, date, that date, time, local, month, time, and week. Tip: use the max and min attributes together to create our range of legal values. In this example, we set our max data, max date, a min date, a range of legal values. In this example, we use this. Okay. Here we use the min and max attribute. The min and max attribute specify the minimum and maximum values for an input element. Here you can see it. Here we use it. So now here you enter the date before 1980s, one month and one day. Okay, like that. And there's one, and you enter a date after 2000. 2000. Here you can see it. You give that any date after 2000, and then you give the quantity between a 1 to 5. Okay, not more than 5. Here you can see, then you will click the submit button. Okay, so this one, the min and max attribute specify the minimum and maximum values for an input element. The multiple attribute. The input multiple attribute specifies that the user is allowed to enter more than one value in an input field. The multiple attribute works with the following input types like email and file. This is one example of a file upload field that accepts the multiple values. So let's run this code. So first of all, let me copy it and let me paste it. Save it and run it. So in this example, we use the input multiple attributes. The multiple attributes specify that the user is allowed to enter more than one value in an input field. So you can select your file from your computer, and then to select the multiple files, hold down the Control or Shift key value selecting. Okay, if you want to add more than select multiple files, so you can hold Control and Shift. Okay. So you can add more files like this. Okay, then you click onto the submit button. Okay, so like that, in today's video I talk about in the HTML what is the input attributes. So if you enjoyed this video, so please like this video, share, and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to all the notification bell also, so you never miss our these type of videos on the full stack web development. So let me meet you in the next lesson, next video. Amazing, I like that type of videos. So now let me give the outro of this video in the big screen. So let's move toward onto the big screen and let's give the outro of this video. Right, that's wrap for today's unordinary adventure. Now you know how to use bullet points to organize chores in HTML. Even if your own life still looks like an unclosed div tag. If you enjoyed this video, how you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what's the most chaotic thing you will add to your unordered list. See you in the next time. Until then, keep your list unordered and your code well ordered. So good. Bye.